around the world news update. My name is Bokasanda, and of course, let's go across the world in some of the news items that I do have for you this particular morning. Russia will create buffer zone along a border with Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a decision to create a buffer security zone along the border between Russia and Ukraine at an operation meeting with members of the government in Moscow on a Thursday. Our armed forces are working on this task. Enemy firing points are being actively hit. The work continues. At the same time, I would like to reiterate that even now, given the situation in the Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions, work must begin to rebuild and restore everything that has been destroyed, the head of state said. Now, Putin instructed federal authorities to develop a set of measures to restore the affected areas with a tailored approach. These include the restoration of housing, social and transportation facilities, compensation for lost property, support for displaced persons who are forced to leave their homes and are now living in temporary accommodation centers, rented houses, or with relatives, the Russian leader concluded. Moscow launched a military offensive in Ukraine in late February that Kyiv had failed to guarantee their special status under the 2014 Minsk agreements, and urging Ukraine to declare itself officially neutral and give assurances that it would never join NATO. Kyiv announced the Russian action as an invasion. Zelensky imposed martial law throughout the country, announcing a general mobilization, while the EU and the US imposed several rounds of sanctions on Moscow. Held to the chief 91 Yaoundé. This marks the first public appearance of a 91-year-old leader. In Mant. Footage shows Cameroonian soldiers and cavalry participating in the parade held on the main street of the capital. Nigerian troops led the General Christopher Gwabin Musa also joined the parade as honorable guests. Now, in an interview with the journalist, the general described the parade as wonderful, highlighting guests. Now, in an interview with the journalist, the general described the parade as wonderful, highlighting that arriving for the celebrations in Cameroon felt like coming home. This is a kind of friendship that we show between African countries, African militaries, African nations. We are all brothers, he told the journalist. So for us, it's exciting that we are here, and our parade is just annually. On May 20, the holiday marks the year, and our parade is just annually. On May 20, the holiday marks the country's transition from federal to a unitary state legislated by a national referendum in 1972. Ramaphosa kept his cool. Trump didn't want to listen, and he's a hypocrite. Kept outside. Residents of Cape Town on Thursday shared opinions following U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks about white farmers living in South Africa, to whom he had referred to as victims of racial discrimination. The comments came during talks with President Cyril Ramaphosa in the White House on Wednesday, who maintained composure despite the contentious claims. President Ramaphosa was cool-headed. He didn't allow Trump to ambush him. He kept his cool and focused on his agenda. Sisoko Sishonke focused on genocide, but he didn't want to listen. The forced statements came because he lacked information, but it's Trump. He doesn't care about explanations, Mabaso added. Now, Keith Chandler, another Cape Town resident, alleged the South African delegation had been unprepared for the critical rhetoric. Now, everywhere else in the first world will think it's genocide. As a first world country, yes, I think he's correct, he said. A local named Catherine, they are always bullying somebody and going into stuff for what benefits America. Never that South African farmers reportedly arrived in the U.S. citing racial discrimination. The South African government has strongly denied the allegations.
There's a lot of people being killed.
President Ramaphosa actually was a cool-headed. He didn't allow Trump to actually even though it was some sort of ambushing President Ramaphosa, but he didn't actually raise anything, and he kept his cool down and he focused what he was there for. Donald Trump was focusing on that genocide, whereas he didn't actually, in my view, he didn't want to actually to listen actually where this thing emanates, why these false statements come from, because he didn't have all the information, but because it's Donald Trump doesn't care about what the explanation that you gave him. Whatever he believes, that's what is Donald Trump believes.
The Americans did their homework, and the South Africans didn't do their homework. Everywhere else in the first world country will think it's genocide. We are so used to the killings and everything not being. Yeah, there's a lot of people being killed, but his emphasis was on the farmers, and nothing is being done about the farmers.
You see, the thing is with politics, there will always be politics. Politics is like a mind game and a chess game. The house always wins. Yes, we have issues with crime. Yes, we have issues with white farmers being killed. But the last time that I read or heard about the white farmer, Senzomeo case is still unresolved. So it's politics.
Donald Trump is deeply concerned about genocide in South Africa, or more to the point, white genocide in South Africa. But he's got Israel to kill a nation where they aren't supposed to be. They came here in the 8-9.
Mr. Mwangi returns to Nairobi after being released, deported from Tanzania following Kenya's protests. Supporters gathered in Nairobi on Thursday to welcome. Supporters gathered in Nairobi on Thursday to welcome a prominent Kenyan human rights activist Boniface Mwangi following his release and deportation from Tanzania, where he says he endured gruesome torture during his detention. Have been handcuffed and blindfolded since Monday, treated worse than dogs, chained, blindfolded, and underwent a very gruesome torture. Footage captured Mwangi's emotional reunion with supporters, some holding placards reading "Never Be Silent," and colonialism never really ended. Mwangi recounted being dropped at the border under cover of darkness, handed a handcuff first time yesterday. The last few border under cover of darkness, handed a handcuff first time yesterday. The last few days have been crawling like a dog, he said, visibly shaken and limping like a dog. He said, visibly shaken and limping, vowing to release his medical records publicly, urging the Kenyan government to take accountability. His lawyer, James Njeri, condemned the treatment as injustice and called for transparency. The world must know that Mwangi and Ugandan journalist Agatha Atuhere were arrested in Dar es Salaam on Monday by suspected security officers while in Tanzania to observe the treason trial of opposition leader Tundu Lissu. Tanzanian authorities have yet to comment on the detentions or the circumstances of Mwangi's deportation.
I've been handcuffed and blindfolded since Monday night until this morning. We were both treated worse than dogs, chained, blindfolded, and underwent a very gruesome torture. I hear the Foreign Affairs Ministry was in touch with the government of Tanzania. I'm going to the hospital and I would like to make my medical records open to the public. I'm going to get all examinations done. Whatever the hospital says has happened to me, let them share the Kenyan government. At this moment, we have no idea where Agatha is, and we hope that she's safe and she'll be back home with her family. All the comrades for the solidarity. We love you. Power to you, comrade. Thank you. From where I was being held to the borders of Lekanawa, they gave me 400 shillings and 20,000, I think, Tanzanian shillings. Where they dropped me, they told me when they dropped me, I should not speak or look at them because the entire time was blindfolded. So they stopped kidogo, then they they stopped another place. Where they stopped me, there was a border guy waiting for me. So they dropped him in the bag, told me, lala chini, nikalala chini. I was blindfolded. And then when they left in Kato blindfold, there was a border guy waiting for me who dropped me to the border. But it was about 5 a.m. because I can barely walk. I walked for the first time yesterday. The last 2 days I've been walking like a dog because of how I was beaten, how I was treated, and many other things that I'll share later. How can I be a foreigner in Africa? How can I be a foreigner in Tanzania? I've been in Tanzania the last 10 years, I've been there like over 20 times. I was there last year 3 times. I'm always there. And I was saying before this particular case, when Freeman Mbowe, who was part of Chadema, was in jail, I went to go see him. When Stella Nyanzi was in jail, I went to Uganda to see him. When Bobby Wine was in jail, I went to Uganda to see Bobby Wine. So this idea that I'm not a foreigner, I've been in many, many African countries doing what I was doing there on Sunday. And we went there, many of us actually. I wasn't alone, but I was isolated for reasons known to them, and me and Agatha. One of the things that you have to realize that dictators unite and speak in one voice. The reason why Mudavadi on Foreign Affairs, anyone can actually say they can relate with Suluhu's remarks because they would like it to become like Tanzania. When this thing happened and yesterday Tanzania shut down X, and I think that's what's something that Kenyans leaders would like that to happen in this country. So we have politicians in our country who would like to emulate Tanzania in behavior, in abductions, in torture. But we can't allow ourselves to go back to the Moi days because Kenya was where Tanzania was today in the 90s. So we have a new constitution, let's defend it with our lives. And that's what people have been doing for the last 3 days, demanding for a release. And for now, I really want you guys to look for Agatha because they did very terrible things.
This is unfortunate, it's unfair, and I tell you, when the time is right, we are going to ensure that answers are received because we will ask the questions and we know where we need to go to ask those questions. But for now, we say we are happy to have Boniface back. He's getting medical attention, and as he has said, we are going to